All right. Welcome,
All right.
everyone. I got my good buddy Lyra here, and we're going to be doing a hockey podcast about the NHL and some stuff that could be controversial. Probably not, but like honestly, I got some takes. Got some takes on the what's going on this off season. So yeah, I'll introduce myself. I'm Drumm. I mean, if you guys follow my channel already, you know that. And normally it's I game on my stream, but I figured I wanted to do something else. Like I really wanted to get into this NHL season coming up, and a fun way to do that was talking with my friend here, Lyra, about doing a podcast. So welcome to my co-host, Lyra.
Hello everyone. Hopefully, I can share some interesting and somewhat spicy takes with you all. I've been waiting to get these out in the open. I have a lot of takes to throw out there, see what people think about them. Uh, could be considered casual or not, but we shall see.
Yeah.
Happy to be here, man.
Well, welcome, man. So the plan with these podcasts, like, there's nothing like really cement in stone yet about like schedule wise or how often we're gonna do the podcast. I think for now we're gonna try for like once a week and see how it goes. But we have a lot to talk about today, actually. And
Pretty
well,
eventful day
but yeah,
pretty
yeah,
interesting.
pretty eventful day in the NHL. Got three, like I would say three big names like announcing the retirements today, which
Mhm.
isn't really common. Like I don't remember the last time we had like multiple like I guess former stars slash Hall of Famers announce a retirement at the same time. So yeah, early this morning, if you guys live under a rock, we had the 45-year-old Zdeno
I think it's
Chara,
45.
Big Z, as he likes to go by.
Mhm.
Man, what a career that guy has had, man.
Yeah. By the way, I should mention, retired as a Bruin, signed a
Yes.
one-day contract to retire as a Boston Bruin, which I think is pretty neat because I
Well,
think most of us
yeah,
know Big Z as part of the Big Goon Squad back in Beantown, right? So, you know, it's 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 poetic justice that he retires as a Bruin. Uh, it's also about time, I would say.
yeah, on
I've
it,
been,
a very well like solidified career, Stanley Cup champion, a
yeah,
Norris Trophy winner back in his time, and I mean, hell, you know who Big Z is. When Big Z is on the ice, you know he's gonna start a fight or make a big hit. Like, and he led that Bruins team for such a long time and was a true leader on and off the ice, in my opinion. So yeah,
I would agree. I would agree. I mean, just a testament to how much of a good leader he is. Boston has been competitive ever since I started watching hockey, which was around 12 years ago, actually. So he's definitely up there for legendary status. I definitely think he's a Hall of Fame.
oh yeah, I think he's definitely a lock for the Hall of Fame. There's not really a question about it, but it's more of a question of when he'll be inducted. And then two other announcements today. We had Keith Yandel, one
Yes,
of
yes.
the
The Iron Man,
yeah,
I
the
believe.
Iron Man, yeah, and then we had PK Subban. I did not expect that, dude. Honestly, I was kind of wondering what was going on with PK, right? Because I'm like, he doesn't have a contract yet, and I know he's kind of had a more diminished role in his latter half of his career, but 13 years in the NHL for him, man. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I honestly thought that he was already retired. I'm sorry to say, because ever since he's been traded to the Devils, he's kind of been under the radar.
Mhm.
I actually saw more of him on his podcast than I did of him on the ice, but that might just be because I don't really watch the Devils. That being said, PK Subban, man, what a career! I mean, his tenure with the Montreal Canadiens, we he basically, I don't want to say put the spotlight on that team, but he made that team quite relevant when they really had no business being relevant.
Yeah, honestly, I have to agree. Most of his, highlights that I remember was as a Montreal Canadian.
Mhm.
And the fact that he made it to the Stanley Cup final as well with Nashville in that run against going against the Penguins like that was one heck of a run for him. I and I
And that was
wonder and I
score.
wonder how he felt when Montreal reached the finals a couple years ago. You know what I mean? I wanted to honestly kind of be like a fly on the wall for that. I'm sure he was happy, but I think he would have been happier staying in that Canadians uniform for sure. Um, and speaking of big news today, the richest man in the NHL now, Stanley Cup champion Nathan MacKinnon.
Yes, yes,
Wow,
absolutely.
what a deal. So I have Cap Friendly opened here actually. And
Okay.
so his contract for the 22-23 season is 6.3 mil on the cap, which I mean, what a ridiculous deal like he took for
8
that
years, right?
contract. And then now the new AAV according to his contract is going to be double the amount that he's making now. So he went from 6.3 to 12.6 million dollars. Now, this is the
That's his
crazy part about this
AAV?
contract.
That's his AAV?
That's
Hold
his
on, what?
AAV.
Let me look at this
Now,
page.
if we look at his signing bonus for the next 2 years, this is
Mhm.
money he's gonna make as of July 1st. It's $15.725 million dollars.
And that's on
Like,
top of his AAV. Oh my god.
right? So pretty much like you know that Nathan McKinnon's gonna be a lifelong Avalanche, and it's nice to see that he won his cup and now he's got his big payday to prove like it all to everyone, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, is this gonna affect the cap next year for Colorado? It sure does.
Yes, absolutely it will.
I don't know what their cap situation is going to be in 24, but they have what looks like Eric Johnson as a UFA. I don't see him coming back. Sorry,
Oh,
Avs fans. I know that's hard, but I don't think Eric Johnson's coming back for that cap. And then you got like four guys who are depth pieces and RFA and Alex Newhook. So, and I'm looking at Mikko Rantanen's contract, and I'm looking at Gabe Landeskog's contract. I think Gabe Landeskog, great contract for that 7 million there, but it's gonna the Joe Sakic. I think he's in win now mode for back to back. Would you agree?
I definitely think that would be the right move. They definitely suffered some losses, losing Kadri. He was a big part of that playoff run. But I definitely think if you're the Avalanche, you're looking at your roster and you're going, why couldn't we go for a second run? Why couldn't we do what Tampa just did for the last 2 years? You know? They're still a pretty good team. They just signed their captain for 8 more years, and they have a pretty good roster around him. I mean, who was their projected lineup going to be?
Okay,
Let me just
well, I would say losing Kadri definitely is going to affect that second line. That was really
yeah.
big for them this postseason. Like,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, their forwards and Kale McCarr in that defense, it's so stacked. My question for this team, if they're going to repeat, is the goaltending. Okay, so I
Yeah.
look at it and I see Alexander Georgiev, who's likely the starter or the
Yeah.
1A, and then you have Pavel Francouz as the backup or the 1B. Now you tell me how confident you would feel, if they were on the Sharks or if they were on the Leafs, right? You wouldn't feel
You, you,
so great. But
Yeah, if we're going by goaltending tandem alone, I would definitely not be super confident in my team, especially if they were on the Sharks. I mean,
yeah,
context for anyone watching. I am not a Winnipeg homer. I am a San Jose Sharks fan. I've been a San Jose Sharks fan since 2008, since the Dallas Stars series. And I firmly believe if the Sharks had a goalie tandem of Pavel Francouz and Alexander Georgiev, I would not think that this team would go deep in the playoffs, let alone you know, be anything other than a footnote in anyone else's playoff run. I just don't have any confidence in that goalie tandem. Georgiev, he's solid. I just don't. I just don't know if I would consider him a starter goalie. He kind of played second fiddle to Shesterkin last year, which isn't bad, but I mean, he's kind of unproven as a starter, in my opinion. And Francouz, he came up big in some moments for the Avs in the playoffs, but we're talking a full 82 game roster where he's probably going to play 30 to 40 games, splitting with Georgiev. I'm not too sure. I wouldn't be too confident like in terms of goalies for Colorado Avalanche. I think they might make a splash at the deadline for a goalie.
yeah.
That's
I
my opinion.
I I honestly think they have to because if injuries plague this team, they will not win the division at all. And the Central Division is a very hungry division, and even the Jets, honestly, as bad as they were last season, you could see that if they get lucky, they could be top 3 in that division, you know what I mean? But it's gonna be tight. I just have questions on the goaltending. Other than that, like, they kinda just look like what, uh, Tampa Bay was, and,
After her first year.
you still gotta give your props to Tampa Bay, like, the fact that they went to 3 finals in a row. Freaking Vasilevsky, dude, that guy is honestly, I and I'm gonna say this is a hot take. I think he's probably the best goalie I've seen in my entire life. Um,
Hmm.
but that is big respects to Andre Vasilevsky, uh, from me at least.
And
Um,
just to expand on the Tampa Bay note for a second here, like you said, three straight finals, and that's including the first run where they had to play a lot more games than a normal playoff run due to the bubble, due to the play-in, and all that stuff. Where do you see Tampa Bay finishing at the end of this season? Considering how burnout has to be a factor for a lot of their core players. Vasilevsky, especially. I mean, he's
yeah.
been absolutely incredible. As you said, probably the best goalie in our lifetime so far. He's still human. And we're talking 3 years of deep playoff runs playing at the most elite level. I
Yeah.
don't see him maintaining that form for a fourth year.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. I mean, you look at most teams that are really like cup contenders,
Yeah.
unless I guess you're like Carolina this year, which they have an interesting lineup. But yeah, to go back to Tampa Bay, it's you're gonna see fatigue, being a key thing for most teams this year. You know,
Mm,
especially towards the end of the season where you see the playoff push happening, you're gonna see that those teams are gonna tend to slow down a little bit because they wanna save their energy and their composure, for the playoffs, right? And I think Tampa has been so smart about that ever since sweep from, Columbus,
yeah.
a few years ago. You can tell that being first in the division, it doesn't matter to them. They could be wild card 2, and they'll, like, absolutely tear your lineup,
Yeah. I mean,
you know what I
they were
mean?
third last year.
But
They were third seed last year, and they still made the finals.
yeah.
And somehow, in all of those series, except maybe it's the Toronto one and the Colorado one, they were the favorites going in, despite being the lower seed.
Yeah.
So they don't care about that seeding thing, especially with how the playoff format is right now.
Yeah.
Which, how do you feel about the current playoff format? Do you want to go back to the ones and eights and fours and fives, or do you like the division format?
You know what? if I had to be honest, I really do like the division format, but if I could pick right now what to go back to, definitely like 1v8, 2v7, 3v6
Mm,
and 4v5.
yeah.
I just think it's not fair for the teams that have played great all year, or even look at how the Eastern Conference lined up last year. All those teams got 100 points.
Yeah, that was
You got a real like bad hand dealt to you if you were in the Eastern Conference, no matter who you played, right?
yeah.
But I just like that format better. But it honestly, I do love division rivals. I think
Oh,
eventually it's going to change, but I think for look at the past few years in round one and how many great matchups there were, right?
oh yeah.
So I think in terms of round one and in terms of Stanley Cup final, um, those seem to be the two rounds that are the high viewership,
Yeah.
so to speak. But that's just me. But going back to this Colorado team, yeah, Nate MacKinnon, well deserved payday. Honestly, would love to see him be a captain of the Colorado Avalanche one day. Obviously, it's going to be hard knowing that Gabe Landeskog is that
Oh,
captain, is that
Landeskog's still the
leader, But
I thought they gave it to McKinnon a long time ago. Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah,
Goes to
no,
show you how much of the Avalanche I actually watch.
yeah, but But you know what? Let's move on to that. So speaking of captains,
Mhm.
um, the what the hell is going on with the Winnipeg Jets, dude? Like
Oh, wow.
you had Blake Wheeler being the captain for the last 6, 7 seasons, and he seemed really content on how much he loved being the captain for the Jets and how much he loved being a leader in that locker room. And then you hear the tricklings of the locker room being cancerous, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and that makes me question: was Blake Wheeler truly a good leader for that Winnipeg Jets team? Your thoughts?
You know, like you said, he's been a captain for 6 or 7, and for most of those years, he had Paul Maurice over as the head coach. So, my thoughts on that is, when the Maurice era was still, where we were still in the Maurice era, Wheeler captain might have worked, but you gotta understand, last season they had a whole different coach. This season they have Rick Bonus coming in, totally different coaching strategy. So it might not have worked out. I don't necessarily think he's a locker room cancer. I just think the reason why he was stripped was because maybe, Rick Bonus looks at him and says, you know what, that's not my leader. That's not the guy I want leading my locker room. So my personal thoughts on it, I understand why it was done. Do I agree with it? I'm on the fence about it. I don't agree nor disagree with it at the moment. However, I am curious to see how this pans out and how the Winnipeg Jets do this season under this new leadership. And, I don't want to say anarchy, but more so like this team oriented environment where there's no one leader and everyone kind of gets, a role and a say into how they're going to play. I imagine that's how it's going to go without a cap.
Yeah. So I actually have some quotes from the press conference that they had sometime last week.
Okay.
So in the for Rick Bonus, his explanation is that it's our goal to expand a leadership base within our hockey team. We have high expectations for our core players, and we want to provide them with the opportunity to step into those greater leadership roles as a group. So obviously, you can see Bonus is he wants to get rid of the stigma, like, you know what, like these guys were your leaders, but it's really a team effort, and he seems really like
Yeah.
a team coach. And if I go back to the Stars in their run to the Stanley Cup final, it really did seem like a team effort, and you could see in his coaching style. Now, is it gonna really help the Jets pull through? That's to be seen this season. It's gonna be a long 82 game grind.
Yep.
But here is Wheeler saying this. He's saying, I don't need a letter on my jersey. There was a time in my career when that validation was important to me. I don't need that anymore. I'm really looking forward to watching a lot of the guys I've had the privilege of watching grow up and step into an expanded role. And if you think that because of this, I'm going to just fade into the background and not be a leader on this team, you are sorely mistaken. So
Spoken like a
it
true captain.
it seems like he's like saying like listen guys, like I don't care that I'm not the captain of the team anymore. I want to see my boys that that I played with alongside for these past like long years of being in this organization, that he wants to see them be the bigger picture of this team.
Hmm.
Do I think he's salty? Of course. Y- y- it would just be like me saying, next season, say Crosby has like a 60-point season, and then you're just like, well, Crosby, you had a 60-point season, and this team didn't do anything, and you weren't a big part of it. We're just gonna strip you of your captaincy. Are you telling me that Crosby wouldn't be salty, like Wheeler? Just hypothetically speaking, right?
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think Wheeler stays on this team this whole season. I think there's going to be cup contenders who view Wheeler as a key piece
Hmm.
in what they're missing in their team.
A veteran leadership.
But that depends where this Jet team goes, right? If they're looking for third or second place, I don't think he goes anywhere. As long as he's an important integral piece of that top six, right? But then I'm hearing about Cole Perfetti possibly being a part of that top six. And so that makes me think, well, Wheeler, right? Like, he kind of has to be the piece to go if Perfetti's going to be the one that
Perfetti
slots
steps
in,
all in,
right?
right? Yep.
So I don't know. It's kind of it's so confusing. I feel like the Jets off season was just a total dumpster fire, losing out on Barry Trotz as the head coach. That was a kick in the groin for them. And then all this drama, dude, like I'm not sure where this Jets team goes, but their actions on the ice and their performance on the ice is what's going to matter uh
Exactly.
for how this team uh is going to be transformed for the future, in my opinion.
I definitely agree. Like you said earlier, the Wheeler situation, the outcome of it is going to depend on where the Jets are closer to the trade deadline. If the Jets are in the basement of the NHL, then it's not unlikely for us to be sellers at the deadline. And Wheels is probably going to be one of our assets that we're going to be parading and saying, "Hey, this guy's available. Give us some picks." Um, that being said, the flip side is also true. If the Jets somehow peak and do really well, and maybe right around the 1 or 2 seed in the Central, I don't. I actually don't find it very unlikely that Wheeler finishes the season with the Jets. And I feel like he's just been a part of the team for so long, and he's talked about these guys played alongside. I just don't see it. I just don't see him leaving off his own volition unless the Jets are gonna get something, like a few picks or maybe even another player in return for him. But in terms of the Jets' core, if we do lose Wheeler, the Jets are probably going to go through a few years of, um, suck. But it's not going to be as bad as people are making it out to be. I can already see people, on Twitter, on Facebook, on the Jets threads going, oh my God, we're going to be so bad for the next 5 years. Our
Yeah.
prospects are so low. And I just don't agree with it because I look at our core. I mean, we still have Vilhenola is still on with us, right? He's still
Yes.
on the jet. I guess Cole, and then as you mentioned, Cole Perfetti, he's going to be slotted into the lineup. My only question is if the scenario comes true that Wheeler doesn't go at the deadline, and the Jets do want to move Perfetti up, someone else has to be a sacrifice for the top six, right? I mean, Wheeler's not gonna budge from there, I don't think, if he's still on the team.
Yeah. Well, let's play GM here for a second, right?
All right.
You are not going to get rid of Kyle Connor, who is your top scorer, honestly, the past 2 seasons. And this guy legit looks like uh, he was the better choice over Patrick Laine, in my
Yeah,
opinion. In my
I
opinion,
do think so.
no,
Yeah.
no digs at Patrick Laine. He he is a great goal scorer, but if you're talking about a guy in the top 6 that's going to produce and is almost like a top 15 scorer every season, Kyle Connor is that pick, dude. Like, and I don't care what anyone has to say. You watch Kyle Connor when he plays, he doesn't have one specific way that he plays the game, right?
Mhm,
It's
exactly.
he's not predictable, and
Yes.
and the fact that he's a smaller guy who has to be fast on the ice and it's a fast game, it only benefits him in the lineup, and that's my opinion. Shifley, I know a lot of people shit on Shifley, but I'm gonna remind all of you Shifley haters out there uh that he was, excluding last season, he was a point per game player every season of most of his career. So, for people saying trade Shifley, you really got to think about that, because Dubois, he ain't gonna stay. I'm sorry, Jets
No.
fans, he's not gonna stay as much as you guys want him to, unless things really change for that team. Um, but Shifley's your guy. Just leave him alone. Let him rebound. You know what I mean? And he's a guy who is going to rebound. You're going to see a different Mark Shifley this season than you did last season. And I think there's going to be more effort. Um, and then you look at the second line. You got Dubois, a year left and he's still an RFA next season. And then you got Nick Ehlers, and you're not going to get rid of Nick Ehlers. He's a core guy. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
And especially like last season, he seemed to be on like the up and up for how he plays in the point production. So
Yeah, he definitely.
who does that leave you with, right? Leaves you with Wheeler. So you either got to get rid of Dubois, which why would you get rid of Dubois? He's a guy that's been in the league for a few years. I know people think that we lost or that the Jets lost that trade when they traded Liney. Whatever. It's still you can still have a conversation about which team honestly won that trade, but
Not an even trade, actually. Actually, no. I would actually argue that Columbus wins not because of Line or Dubois, purely based on the fact that they also got Jack Roslovic. Had Roslovic not been a part of that trade and it was a 1-for-1, it would have been a dead even trade. But
yeah,
because the Jackets got a depth player, and I don't want to call him a depth player, honestly, but that's kind of what he is in Roslovic, on top of getting a pure goal scorer like Line, I think Columbus actually wins that trade. Not by much, because as much of a pure goal scorer Line is, he is also, in my opinion, and this could be considered as a hot take, he is very linear in the way he plays. And I noticed because the last two times I watched the Sharks play, back when Line was still in the Jets lineup, both of those overtime losses that the Jets had to the Sharks were directly Line's fault. And you can quote me on this. I can give you the dates of these games, and you can see what he did that directly led to the game-winning goal every time.
yeah,
And the reason is because they know how he plays. He is, and y'all can like roast me for saying this. I think Line is a discount Ovechkin. That's what I think he is, because he slots into the same, almost the same exact spot, waits for a one timer, and then takes 10 years to back check. So
yeah.
I think that the Jets won the trade. No, do I think they lost the trade one sidedly? Absolutely not. Because if you look at the way Line has affected the Jackets, and you look at the way Dubois has affected the Jets, in terms of stats, it's kind of similar almost. And no one has, been the X factor ever since coming into their new team. They've kind of just been
They just fit it
slow.
into their role kind of thing.
Exactly. They've become role players. They're not the star. Especially for Line, coming into this year, Columbus, with their arguably the biggest free agent signing of the year.
Which is what I was actually gonna get into. I think this year is really gonna determine who wins that trade. And the fact that you
Yeah,
have Johnny Gaudreau playing with Patrick Laine, like holy like shit, you know what I mean? Like
you know what? Props to Columbus.
Laine could put up 50. I'm just saying. As bad as defensively as he is, if Laine hits the net, he's definitely gonna hit 50. I honestly, that's gonna be one of my season predictions. Line A hits 50 first time in his career.
I
Um,
actually don't think that's impossible because when I saw the John, let me ask you this: first day, your first reaction when you saw the Johnny Gaudreau sign?
um, New Jersey, hello, where are you guys? Like he was literally right there for you guys. Like Philadelphia,
Philadelphia,
Philadelphia. Literally, you let
Philadelphia,
your
yeah.
homeboy, your homeboy
Uh,
go. Like, you know what I mean? No one
but
thought Columbus was gonna get the biggest fish, but they did.
and that's exactly what I was gonna say. Props to the Columbus GM, man. Like he pulled a fast one on the entire league with this signing, and it's the more I read into it, the more it made sense to me because we just talked about how much of a linear, one-dimensional player Patrick Laine is, and I was gonna expand on that by saying, he benefited from having a Mark Scheifele, a Kyle Connor, and Nikolai Ehlers by his side. He has probably an upgraded version of all three of those guys. So if he was able to do what he did on the Jets in 2018 with a Scheifele, with a Ehlers, with a Connor, with a Johnny Gaudreau now,
Yeah.
call him defensive liability all you want. That won't matter if he's putting 50 on you on the season. You know, I'm excited where this Columbus team goes because they're in a division that I wouldn't say too competitive, but they definitely had a resurgence this year. I mean, all four metropolitan teams that were in the playoffs hit 100 points. So that's a testament to something. So I think Columbus this if they had a year to make noise apart from 2019, this is the year because this is the most hype that they've had around them since they signed Temi Panarin. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for
So,
sure. And you got to remember Goudreau coming off his career best season, 115 points, 40
oh
goal
yeah,
scorer, 40 goal scorer, Johnny Goudreau. I don't know if a lot of people remember that he did pot 40 goals this season.
I think
And
you got
75 apples, dude. 75.
yep.
Like, wow. And this guy's gonna be playing with Patrick Laine. If Patrick Laine hits the net, dude, Johnny Gaudreau could literally get 100 assists. Like, like, honestly, I'm not kidding about this too. It seems like it's a really far fetched statement, but when Patrick Laine is hitting his mark and hitting his stride in his office area, dude, there it's like he's one of like three guys that I can name that can be in that conversation. Ovechkin and Matthews being the other two at this
Mhm.
point. Um you know, but yeah. Speaking of Matthews, I don't really have this in my notes or anything, so this is gonna kind of just be spontaneous. Does Matthews hit 60 again and win his third straight Rocket
I
box?
don't see why not because there hasn't been that apart from I think your goalies. I don't think you guys made that big of a change to your forward lineup. No,
No,
I
but
yeah.
I know the Leafs are over the cap right now, and they will have to trade someone.
Who do you think
I
goes?
it's so hard to know. I think the way I look at it, I don't know how they keep Kerfoot in the lineup. It's just it's brutal. Kerfoot is like a key piece to that team, but his
But you're
cap
also
for a
paying him.
third line center is way too
Yeah,
much. And even
I
if you had injuries to your top six, he hasn't really fit into that top six. He's really a middle six, like depth guy. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. He's
So,
the guy you put out for penalty kills and stuff like
but if I had to be honest, get rid of Justin Hall, dude.
that.
Like there was really, I don't know if it was last season. I want to say the season before when he played with Jake Muzzin in that shutdown role. I was like, wow, we have shutdown defensemen finally. And I've heard some like rumors on Twitter, Hockeyverse, about you guys are paying too much for Jake Muzzin. He's just getting older. He's on the latter half of his contract now. You guys really want to keep him. He's been injured in the big playoff runs that you guys have had.
Was he injured against Tampa last year?
I don't think against Tampa, but he was injured against Montreal towards
Yep.
the end
Well,
of that
game
series,
six,
and then he
game
got
six,
injured. I want to say against Columbus
2019
in
Boston,
the bubbles.
2019.
So it just tough go for Jake Muzzin. I love the dude. He's a beauty, but like I think I'd pick him over Justin Hall. Justin
I was gonna
Hall
say.
is literally a number 7 defenseman that you guys can replace. But they also haven't signed Rasmus Sandin.
Well, I was gonna say, like, if you had a choice between Jake Muzzin and Justin Hole, I think it's a fucking no-brainer. We're talking about Jake Muzzin. You can call him injury prone all you want.
But the guy's a Stanley Cup champion, dude. I
He's a Stanley
mean,
Cup champion, and he's proven to be able to perform in the playoffs when he is there. We can't say the same thing for Hole. Is Hole healthy more than Muzzin? Absolutely,
yeah,
but that doesn't necessarily translate to him being as or more reliable as Muzzin when Muzzin is on the ice.
yeah.
So I think if you cut someone for cap reasons, Hole is a good choice. I definitely would sign Sandine and get rid of Hole. Just and that's not a knock on Justin Hole, but I'm not saying he's trash. He's a traffic cone. He's just on that Leafs roster is stacked. Okay, like
Yeah.
I look at the Leafs roster and I'm going, how the fuck did these team not beat Tampa Bay last?
Dude,
Because I look
that series, especially game 6, such a coin
oh
flip. It was such a coin flip. Even game 7, I honestly um I can't believe that John Tavares, like I still can't believe that John Tavares goal was called no goal.
yeah
Obviously I understand the calling and the rule on the ice, but
yes we understand that it's a rule. However, we
I
also understand
just
it's a bullshit rule. Okay, so
dude,
so
I think that was the best game 7 loss that the Leafs have ever had in their history.
that's a pretty sad
Honestly,
statement.
it is
The
it is a sad statement, but if you look at all the other game 7s that they played,
They
um
haven't been close. They haven't
it
been
was
close.
so it that series was such a coin flip. Even the game 1 where the Leafs like just blew the Lightning out of the water and then the Lightning blew the Leafs out. I was like, this is strategic. It's not that both teams just want to friggin' score 10 and get the other team all riled up. It was strategic because
Yeah,
both teams played so similar, but you knew that Tampa, they were never going to give up because it was the next guy up. Who is that next guy going to be? Game 6 it was Braden Point. I was,
it
man,
was Nick.
that no, that was game 7. Freaking Wayne Gretzky himself. Nick Paul with 2 goals, dude.
Dude,
Unbelievable. But
earlier when we were talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning, um, I think 2021 or 2022. That's the most mortal we've seen Tampa Bay in a long time, and that Toronto series proved it because I genuinely thought that after Game Five, Toronto was gonna break the curse because of how they were playing. And I've said this before, I look at 2019 Boston when they had a 3-2 lead, and even then I was like, they're gonna fucking choke this. There's just no way. I didn't get that with the Tampa Bay Lightning game because, like you said, Game 6 and 7, you know, it's such a coin flip. I watched Game 6 and I thought that they were gonna win Game 6 for a solid 2 periods.
Yeah.
So Toronto, to expand on the Toronto point, I don't think I don't see any reason why Matthews would slow down. I feel like he's only gonna get better because now that was the closest they've ever gotten to winning a round. I don't care if you say, oh well, they only won 3 games. It's the same thing as the last 3 years
Yeah.
or whatever. They got really fucking close. Where in those last 4 game 7s with Toronto, can you honestly say that they had a fighting chance up until the last 10 seconds?
Yeah.
Only
It
last year. Only last year.
I'm I mean that Montreal series though too, like I don't want to talk about that series because what a joke,
Yeah, but I think after they lost game
but
5, you kind of
but
knew. Oh,
that game 6 in Montreal where they go to OT and the Leafs literally have 13 shots and the Canadians have 2.
yeah.
And then Travis Dermott just boneheaded play. Just boneheaded play to Kotkaniemi.
Uh,
Like
you know, you and Steve Dangle had
oh, dude, that was me when I watched that. I was like I was like friggin' send him out of the cannon. Like get Travis Dermott off this team now. Like what was that? Like
it's
but
funny because
oh
we were in
god.
a call during
Oh
that game
yeah,
6.
we were.
You were
And what did I tell you after that game? I said I don't believe in this team. They are not gonna win game 7. And what
all
happened, bro?
Dangle thing,
It's
and you and Dangle had the exact same expression on your face when Kotkaniemi scored that goal, and you both said the same thing. The Leafs aren't gonna win the series.
look, Steve, if you ever watch this podcast, I would love to chat about game 6 against the Canadians, you know.
God,
Good times, but
I'm a Sharks fan. I know some of your pain.
yes.
Trust it doesn't get any better just because you won some rounds. Believe me, it does not get better. It gets more heartbreaking when you watch a team lose deep in the playoffs. So, not to get super off track a little bit here. Apart from Justin Hole, who else do you cut to circumvent the cap?
It's so hard because you look at that bottom 6 of Toronto, and a lot of them are on value contracts. And shout outs to my boy Mark Giordano for taking 900K for 2 years with this Leafs team. What a fucking beauty, dude.
Shout,
Honestly, like
shout out to you.
Gio sleeper on that Leafs team. I'm telling you
Oh
right
yeah,
now, sleeper, dude. Uh but who do you cut? It's hard to say, you know what I mean? For years, the Leafs mass have been chanting William Nylander,
I don't know. I don't know if I agree
but
with that.
why? But why? Because if I look at the importance of the team, yes, John Tavares is a great captain. Is he worth $11 million at this point in that contract? No. And we all knew that. We all knew that when he signed with the Leafs, that his good years were going to be the first couple of years in that contract. And now here we are, right? Like, and you got to feel for John. Like, he really wants to bring the cup home, dude. He really does.
Oh
But
yeah,
like,
you saw it in
you
his.
can see his play is starting to do that thing where all stars do. Like when they get older, it's starting to dip a bit. Is John Tavares gonna have a bounce back season? And this is saying, if I may look, I guess I don't have it up anymore, but I believe John Tavares was almost a point of game player last season, and a lot of people were saying that's not good enough, John Tavares, for what you're making, and I agree to an extent. You're making $11 million as the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, if you're a point of player game, great, but I didn't see anything spectacular in the regular season with him. I thought he kind of flowed along with the team, you know what I mean?
And
And
he
and
also
what is he gonna do this year to make that second line great? Because the second line is good. It's got great talent, but it's not a great second line. You know what I mean? On paper, it
yeah.
should be. On paper, it really should be. John Tavares and William Nylander, like, come on. But
For what you're paying him, the on paper, I guess eye candy you can call it. It doesn't really translate to what you see on the ice, and that's coming from
yeah,
an unbiased fan watching Leaf games. Tavares, he doesn't look like he's declined hard. He's definitely depreciated a little bit. You can tell he's a little bit slower on his feet. Can't stay on his feet as much, but the skill is there.
oh
The
yeah,
only thing,
his hockey
the only
IQ is
thing
so high, dude. And this
is wait,
goes,
he gets a bounce back season.
yeah,
I would see why not. I mean, yes, you want to expect more from a guy making 11 million a year, and I mean this is John Tavares. He's a franchise player.
yeah,
You expect franchise stats, right? Now, I don't want to say that he's going to decline this coming year. However, I do want to say that it's more likely that he we see a further dip in the stats rather than a resurgence like, say, I don't know, Duclair has had in the last few years. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a big turnaround.
yeah.
Do I think he can improve slightly and maybe, get to a little bit more than a point per game stats? Yes. Do I think it's super likely? I don't think so. Just because of his age. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and listen, I love John as the captain of that team, and I love what John has done for the Maple Leafs these past few years that he's been a Maple Leaf. Um, and and to all you Maple Leafs fans that will watch this in the future when this podcast blows up, uh, no, I'm not a Leaf hater. I love the Leafs. I've loved the Leafs since '02, when
You, a
Sundin
Leaf,
and Belfour and Caberlet and McCabe and freaking Jason Allison and freaking Ron Francis, dude. I'm
if
telling
you
you,
were
I've been a Leaf fan since they were last in the playoffs. But I
if
was
you were a
like,
with the Jason Allison era, you're a true fan, my friend. Like those were some rough
Domi,
years.
Domi, dude. What a beauty. But like, Domi, like, come on, man. And to watch the dog shit that was the Maple Leafs after that era. Oh God.
Are you talking about the Randy Carlisle era? Because yeah.
When I'm talking about Phil the Thrill Kessel, Phil the
Oh
Thrill, dude. When he was the top guy on our team.
God, man.
Like, what the hell
How many
is
years did
going
Phil
on, man? Like,
stay
seriously.
on the
But
Leafs for?
when they won that Matthews lottery, like, that was friggin' franchise changing. And you can see that Matthews wants to win it. But my worry now is if there's another first round choke with this team, does Matthews be like, look, I've done all I can for this franchise. The city's great, but I need to start winning
You need
somewhere else.
to win, yeah.
If this happens, I am going to be a lifelong Leaf fan, and I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be more pissed than the friggin' dog shit teams that we've had for so many friggin' years. I will be pissed if Matthews walks because we can't win. And this Leafs team, say what you want. This is my opinion. They are a cup contender. Obviously, goaltending in question, but then, look at Colorado. You can't tell me that Colorado's not a cup contender, and then the Leafs are also not a cup contender when they're in that same exact situation. Obviously, Colorado's got the better defense and whatever, but, you know,
Yeah.
Toronto has to break through, and we do have to move on from this, but we can always return to this conversation for the next episode. But I'm gonna close out this segment with the Leafs saying this. Austin, my dude, we in Leafs Nation love you, you know? And we hope that you can be a lifelong Leaf. And if you choose to walk because the Maple Leafs just can't get past the first round, I'm cheering for whichever team you go to, bud. You're gonna be my favorite player until you retire.
Hey, he's not going to fucking San Jose in the next 5 years. There's no shot. He
If he
okay,
goes to Arizona,
okay. It's more likely he goes to San Jose than Arizona. As long as Arizona is playing in that 5,000 person capacity arena, I don't think he goes there. However, if Arizona can secure an actual arena, they can attract some pretty good free agents. Because I mean, are they dog shit right now? Absolutely, they are. However, they made some moves this year, and it's nothing spectacular. They didn't sign any big free agents. They didn't sign any Phil Kessels or anything like that. They actually lost to Phil Kessel. We'll expand on that in a bit, actually, if you don't mind.
sure.
I have some thoughts I want to get out about Phil Kessel's new team, but we'll take a very short look at the Arizona Coyotes. So
Yeah.
I almost don't want to do this because it feels like I'm roasting them, but I promise I'm not.
Nah, you know what? You know what, friend? Go off. I wanna just sit back and listen to this.
So the Arizona Coyotes right now, there are four notable players: Clayton Keller, Jacob Chikrin, Nick Schmaltz, and Lawson Krause. You hear any superstars in that list? Not really. However, they're not trash players. These are all players that I would have liked the Sharks to actually pick up because they're not superstars, but they're solid, man. I mean, there's a reason why Arizona, despite how shit they've been, there's a reason why they actually pull out wins. Like these aren't AHL level teams. Now, what I'm trying to say is, in the upcoming season, if Arizona wants, to actually do anything, like the arena thing, that's gonna be there. They're gonna have to play, in pretty much a CC environment. I'm sorry to say, but I feel like that might actually be a driving factor because now there's absolutely no pressure on this Coyotes team. And like I said, just now, they don't really have star power. No spotlight is gonna be on this team. So this is a bold prediction. Arizona might just sneak into the playoffs as a sleeper. Are they gonna do anything in there? Absolutely not. But they might just surprise a lot of people and be the spoiler team of this year for these, projected playoff teams that are going to struggle because we always have those teams every year where everyone's like, oh, this team, if they're going to walk to the cup with their roster, and then they finish like
Yeah.
fifth in their division. I
See,
would say no, don't sleep on Arizona,
yeah.
but don't get hyped either because there is nothing to get hyped about in that team.
Hey, you know what? Actually, I can disagree with that. Let me look at the draft that Arizona just had.
Did they actually get to draft people this year? I didn't
So Logan Cooley,
even. Ooh,
um, very very fun player. That's
oh
gonna
yeah,
be
they
on that
did have.
Arizona team. Logan
Oh
Cooley.
yeah,
They
third pick. Yeah,
also got 11th overall pick in the same 2022 draft, by the way. Connor Geeky,
Connor.
who played for the
Yeah,
Winnipeg Ice.
yes, yes,
Um,
yes. Good point.
so Morgan Geeky's younger brother, Connor. It's honestly like give Arizona the building blocks, and they're gonna build with them. And it looks like they got two two good guys that are gonna be great players on that team. And
Yeah, but I mean, season is that enough to be hyped for them?
I think it's a reason to be hyped for the future. Not
Yeah,
like you know what I mean. If Arizona somehow sneaks into one of the wild card spots for this year's like playoffs, like wow, right? Like no one would
What an
expect that, right?
achievement.
But anyways, I want you to go off on Vegas now, because
All right. So, like I said earlier, everybody, I am a San Jose Sharks fan. So take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. Okay. Now, I can't talk about this team without bringing up the 2022 season. But I also want to bring up 2019 for obvious reasons. Everybody knows what happened in 2019. Vegas with a 3-0 lead, game seven. They murder Joe Pavelski on the ice and pay for it. So I think that ever since that playoff loss to San Jose, Vegas has not had good luck or good karma. And you would think that with everyone's opinion on the call, like it would be San Jose who was getting punished. And yes, we are getting punished, actually. So you can stop with that. But
uh,
Vegas, they they gradually got cockier as
oh
they
yeah,
progressed,
oh yeah,
especially with Ryan Reeves on the team. Now, all love to Ryan Reeves, man. He makes the league so entertaining. I actually don't mind him. I like him a lot more than Tom Wilson. That being said, Ryan Reeves, man, he knows how to rile up a team. Now, everybody knows Vegas was the number one seed in the 2020 bubble playoff. And they actually blew a 3-1 lead in that playoffs to Vancouver, except they won game seven because Vancouver forgot how to play hockey in game seven. So Dallas happens. And this is where the fun begins. So Vegas, they in game five of that series, I think it was Zach Whitecloud
yeah.
who had a delay of game that literally cost them the series. Poor guy, by the way, because he looked devastated after that. But I'm
Oh
bringing this
yeah.
up because in that same playoff year, now whenever a team gets eliminated, they always release their list of injuries and like, oh, William Carlson was playing with a fractured hand or whatever. Uh, they also release quotes and quotes that people hear from the bench, and you can search this. This is real. The shit that they were saying in the Vancouver series made me hate them forever. And just to give you an example, a player in the Canucks got hurt in the 2020 playoff. I don't remember exactly who. Let me just, if anyone wants to Google it and fact check me, feel free. Player got hurt in that Vancouver Vegas. And Vegas players reacted pretty much the same way a middle school kid. You deserve it, you fat fuck. Funny? Absolutely. Is it right? No. So everything that's happening to Vegas right now, losing to Dallas in 2020, losing to the Montreal Canadiens in 6 games in 2021, and then completely missing the playoffs in 2022. I mean, this is Vegas haters' wet dream, man.
Yeah.
So the point I'm getting at, 2023 Vegas Golden Knights, their answer to you know not making the playoffs with that stacked roster is continuing to stack that roster. They got Phil Kessel this year, and,
Oh Lord.
and this is where I want to what I want to ask you is looking at Vegas's lineup.
I got Cat
Where
Friendly open right now on Vegas, dude. I can tell you this lineup.
where does
So
the Phil the Thrill fit into that lineup?
obviously I think he fits in wherever what's his name? On the second line. The one I got traded to Carolina. Why am I blanking on this right now?
The one that got traded to Carolina.
Yeah. Pacioretty. Pacioretty got traded to Carolina.
Oh yeah.
I think he fits in there, but what is like Phil is how like Phil is 34 years old. Okay?
Yep.
I think his prime years are behind him. I think he's gonna contribute to maybe like 40 or 50 points.
Fair.
I feel like Pacioretty was the better player for that team. But
Mm,
this is not where it gets interesting for Vegas because for people who follow the NHL, um, Robin Lehner is out for the entire
yeah.
2022-23 season. So let's look
Yes.
at their goaltending situation, which by the way equals to $5.2 million for their 3 goalies that they have. 5.2 million. Now let's listen to the names. We have as what looks like to be the starter potentially, Laurent Brossoit.
Yes.
And then backing him up potentially is Aiden Hill. And
Yes.
then if somehow one of them gets injured, which let's be honest, it's gonna happen. You have
Logan.
rookie Logan Thompson.
Yes.
Welcome to the NHL, kid. You know what I
Listen,
mean?
it can't be as bad as Mike DiPietro's debut.
Yeah.
They fed him to the sharks literally in that debut, man. Like that was rough. Even as a fan of the opposing team, I was like, what? Why would you put your top prospect goalie into the line of fire like this? Like,
Yeah.
by the way, going back to Vegas and their goalie situation, Aiden Hill. I think a lot of people are gonna be underestimating Aiden Hill a little bit because this guy was on the Sharks last year, and I don't know if you remember, but the Sharks started off the year 4-0. By the way,
Yeah. I
uh,
do remember
Aiden
that.
Hill in that stretch, he looked like such an upgrade from Martin Jones that it actually felt like a breath of fresh air. Now in Vegas, if he's not going to be the starter, I feel like he's going to be better. So I actually think that while it's not spectacular, it's definitely a downgrade from Laner Fleury, but it's not as bad as let's say the Abs goalie situation because I think that Brossoit, while not really an elite goalie, he reminds me he strikes me as a better version of Bernier
Okay.
because Bernier was never an elite goalie, but he was a reliable starter when your main goalie was injured. So
No, I would know that. I would know
well,
that.
well, yeah, exactly. So he, I don't think Vegas's biggest problem is goalies. I think Vegas's biggest problem is staying healthy. They made a big splash for Jack Eichel, and then he did
Yeah.
almost nothing for them in that season.
In my
So
honest opinion, though, is Jack Eichel gonna really elevate that Vegas team? You know what I mean? And to be honest, I don't think so. You know,
I was gonna
we don't really know what this because he had a disc surgery, correct, on
yeah,
his
and he
back,
finally got it. God bless him. He finally got it.
right? Now we don't know what the long term effect of that's gonna be until time plays out, right? So
It's
as
the
as
season.
as as much as I want to dig on Jack a little bit, because he did play for the Buffalo Sabres, I mean,
He was in jail for a long time in the Sabres organization.
yeah, but like is Jack Eichel honestly going to do anything to elevate that Vegas team? My short answer is no. My long
Mhm.
answer is the surgery that he had going to deteriorate his play? Let's wait and see. Now,
Hmm.
I know we kind of gone a little bit over time here, so I'm gonna
I didn't.
quickly gonna transition to our we got a
Predict.
tier maker right here. And
All
so
right.
basically what we're gonna do, I'm gonna try and do it by division here.
Okay.
So I should have organized this beforehand. So just give me a second. But you can give me maybe some of your initial thoughts on the Bredard
The
sweepstakes.
Bedard sweepstakes, and who do I think are gonna be the front runners for the Bedard sweepstakes? Hmm. Good question. I believe Montreal is definitely gonna be up there.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't look too hot going into this season. Ottawa looks 10 times better than they do, which is saying a lot. Buffalo is also up there. Chicago let go of whatever big names they had left, not named Seth Jones. So I think Chicago is gonna be up there. They're gonna be I'd say they'd be front runners. I don't think they're gonna be finishing higher than sixth place in their division this year. And I'm sorry for any Blackhawk fans. You guys suck this year. I'm sorry. The Sharks, I don't think they're gonna be front runners, but I have the Sharks finishing in sixth place or seventh place this year. So while they're not gonna be front runners, I think they're gonna be in the mix still. Uh, I might be biased because I'm a San Jose fan, but realistically, that team is also shit this year. So they could be in there. Philadelphia, I think, is actually going to be a front runner because I mean, who was their biggest signing this year in the free agency? Was it Tony DeAngelo?
I think so, to be
I
honest.
think that was their one signing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually think the Flyers are going to be a basement dweller this year. Um, Apart from that, I mean, I guess if we're talking realistically, Coyotes are going to be front runners as well. I think the scenario I mentioned earlier of them making the wild card is a pipe dream, but I mean it's possible. But realistically, I think the Coyotes are going to be up there. Um, Other than that, I mean the way I look at the league this coming season, there's a lot more parity this year than there has been the last 2 or 3 years, I'd say. I mean, a lot of teams improved in the offseason. Ottawa improved drastically.
Oh yeah.
Carolina improved. Anaheim looks a lot better. LA looks solid still. I think they're gonna be another.
Oh,
I think they're
LA,
gonna be.
yeah. LA is on the like up and up in the
Yeah, they did their
Pacific.
rebuild properly. As a division rival, props to the LA Kings, man. You guys did your job well. I think they're gonna be one or two in the Pacific this year, right up there with Vegas and Edmonton, Calgary, even. Um, yeah, I don't really see any other team being frontrunners for the Bedard sweepstakes. I mean, I think my top three, or I guess bottom three, if you want to look at it that way, would be Montreal, Arizona, and a toss up between Chicago and Philadelphia. I think those are the worst teams coming into the year on paper. They can prove me wrong. If Chicago goes 25-1 in the first 26 games, don't at me. I just don't see them making an impact with the rosters that they have right now. So Arizona, Montreal, Chicago, and Philadelphia definitely the shitters of this year.
Yeah, and
It's my
I think you could also put Seattle there, but you know what? Seattle and even Montreal. I think
Seattle on the screen right now. I can't.
no, Seattle's not there. I would put Seattle on the Bedard sweepstakes.
Really, I
Only for the reason that they're still building that team, right? And they're building, and Ron Francis knows what he's doing. He's got Matty Beniers and Shane Wright. Who knew that Seattle was just gonna get Shane Wright when everyone thought he was the number one overall pick? And then
no, Montreal.
Slavkovsky just goes first overall. Like, what the
Montreal
hell?
through everyone. Definitely.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go straight into who I think wins the division, and this can be kind of, I guess, a quick discussion on, if I'm right or if I'm not. In the Pacific, I think it's kind of it's kind of close between first and second, but other than that, I think the Pacific is still like a really tough division to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I think Calgary wins that division. Um,
Mm-hmm.
do I think Calgary improved from last year's group? Um, I think they
Hard to
won the
say.
trade. I don't think they improved as
I think they stayed
a
the same.
squad. I
I think
think
they stayed the
you think they stay the same. I think there's a little bit of there's gonna be a bit of a decline with this team because
same.
you have to remember Goudreau and Kachuk were both on the first line,
Yeah.
right? Do you think Kadri's gonna play on that first line with Lindholm and Huberto? I think Kadri's a second line center.
think Kadri would be better as second line center.
So this is where I think this is where I think if is Kadri gonna have another breakout season like he did in Colorado? If he does, that second line could be really crucial for that Calgary team. Um, so let's move on to Central. Uh,
Yeah.
you win the cup hangover question mark. I don't know. I don't think so. I you and we already kind of discussed this. We think Colorado is going to be a cup contender for quite like a while.
Mhm.
My question is the goaltending, and it's really it's not a reliable tandem. I didn't agree disagree.
Um, for Colorado, you
Yeah,
said
for Colorado.
for a long time, it would depend on what they do this season. In the next couple of years, absolutely, just because of their core right now.
Yeah.
But if the cup hangover bites them hard this year, then obviously it's going to change. But I do agree that I don't see the Central being won by anyone else except maybe Minnesota. But then Minnesota didn't really add anyone else in the offseason.
No,
So I
many didn't do
I don't
much.
see Minnesota being that much of a threat to Colorado at the moment. Are they a sleeper team? Absolutely. But I think Colorado wins the Central despite the cup hangover.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to the what I think is gonna be the most competitive division in the NHL is the Metro. It usually is.
I agree.
I'm gonna go out and say it. The New York Rangers are gonna
Yes.
win their division.
Thank, thank you. I actually agree with this take, and no one else has agreed with me until you did.
Yes.
The
So
Rangers
a
are
lo-
going to win the division.
now a lot of people could make the statement that Carolina will win the division, and I think it's gonna be close. I think
Mm,
Carolina really has improved. Well, when I look at the New York Rangers, Trouba's the captain now. That's
yeah.
that I thought was kind of interesting. You didn't give it to Zibanejad, you didn't give it to Kreider, and you didn't give it to Panarin. You gave it to Truba. Okay? So, you know, uh my question I guess for the Rangers is I guess gonna be Capo Caco. Like he
Mm.
and Lafreniere, I think.
I think more.
Though those guys are going to be going into their third and fourth years in the league, and it's time to pick it up as if you were the first and second overall picks, in my opinion. Uh,
I agree. I haven't seen much of Capo Caco that really sells him as, the second round pick. Is he the first pick or second pick? Caco was the second pick,
Kako's the
right?
second.
He was first.
Yeah,
Yeah. So Caco, I still haven't seen and now I watch the Rangers quite a lot. Actually. Because the Sharks are shit right now.
yeah,
I haven't been that impressed with Capo Caco actually. Is he good? Absolutely, but he just hasn't shown me, that the kind of surge you would see from the guy that you draft second overall. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like he was a coin flip between him and Jack Hughes when he was drafted, so he could have easily been a Devil too. But
yeah,
I think the Rangers win the division, and I think a good factor is going to be, is Capo Caco finally going to break out of this role player role? Is he going to become the star that everyone projected him to be? I think that'll be a factor, but I do agree. I think it's going to be close with Carolina right behind.
yeah. I think just uh, I believe five Metro teams are gonna make the playoffs this year. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
you can't really. There's not a lot of like wiggle room in terms of who's gonna leapfrog who. I think the Rangers are
yeah.
gonna take a little bit of a stranglehold, but it's going to be close.
It's not going to
Uh,
be a big gap, I believe.
yeah, I don't think so either.
Maybe 5 or 6
Uh,
points.
now going into the
Atlantic.
what the hell do you even call this division, man? Like a lot of teams improved in this division, the Atlantic. Um, and who do I think is gonna come out on top? And this is not a biased take, by the way, but I honestly think the Bruins haven't really improved. Bruins are aged, dude. Uh
Hmm.
uh
and they kept their old
Tampa
core.
Bay, Tampa Bay, I think there's gonna be fatigue.
Yeah,
Um,
and they didn't even win the division last year, so
yeah. Ottawa and Detroit got better.
yeah.
Florida declined a bit. Buffalo, don't even wanna honestly, right there, where you belong,
Yeah,
you
I was gonna say
shitters.
they should be in there
Belong
too.
where you belong, you shitters. Right in the bottom. Come at me, Buffalo. Come at me. But there's nothing telling me that the Leafs can't win this division. I think though they cannot focus on winning the division. They have to focus on creating a first man mentality like the teams that have won prior. If they can do that, the Leafs are as good as dangerous as everyone knows. Um, but I think the Leafs win the division. I think there's going to be a bit of a separation. I don't think they get as many points as they did last season because of the teams that have improved in the division.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are kind of my four division winners. Quickly, I'll go Oilers second, and LA third in the Pacific.
Fair, I'd say.
I
Fair, I'd
think
say.
LA is deserved that third
I
spot.
actually
I
think them around even. I think that's gonna be a rematch of their playoff match this year, next year
Yeah,
actually.
that was a good series, Oilers and
I wanted LA
Kings.
to win, and that's coming from a Sharks fan.
Yeah,
So
fair enough. Central, it's really a
Minnesota
toss
St.
up.
Louis.
I Mini takes second, I think.
I think it's mini St. Louis actually.
I'm actually not gonna take St. Louis.
Nashville over Winnipeg?
I think
Over
I
Dallas
think
actually?
I think Nashville. Now Nashville, they have improved, not by much, but you look at the season that Roman Yossi had and who's their goalie. You know what? It's a team effort in Nashville, and I think they're gonna get third in the division. I think it's very close between third and sixth in that division. In my honest opinion, it's gonna go down to the wire. Very competitive division, not as much as Metro, but I think between third and sixth in that division, it's gonna be a dogfight. Um, Metro, Carolina, and it's always a coin flip between these two teams. Don't bet against Sidney Crosby, I guess. I do
I'd
the
say that's fair. I'd say
yeah.
that's
Um,
fair. Yeah, Atlantic.
and the Atlantic, it's gonna be the Lightning for sure, and the Panthers for sure. And
Mm,
either of them could get second or third, in my opinion.
interesting.
Um, wild card one. Uh,
Vegas or Pacific.
you think
I'd say.
Vegas?
After all the shit I actually talked, I do think realistically, it's a toss up between them and Vancouver. Honestly,
Yeah, I was honestly gonna say Vancouver. You know,
I think because of the goalie situation, you can put Vancouver over Vegas.
yeah, I think because of that, I do have to give Vancouver the edge
Yeah,
in the Pacific.
don't sleep on Vancouver's young guys. They might be unnamed, but they're pretty.
Yeah. Uh, I think for the Central, or I think how it's gonna go for the Central.
For wild card one,
No, I think they're gonna be. I think it's gonna be close, but I think the Stars. I think St. Louis
yes,
is gonna miss the playoffs.
yeah. So do you
Um,
put the Stars as the second or first? Yeah.
I put him as the second in the
Second?
that division.
Do you think
Um,
Vegas gets the playoffs then? Interesting.
yeah, I think not having the goalie for the year, and I don't know what to expect with him. It's just it's better
Let me see who
safe than
their
sorry to say that they're gonna be in the Bedard sweepstakes.
let me see who their projected lineup.
Yeah. Um, that's me. I think St. Louis is going to be the more shocking one that doesn't make the playoffs over Vegas. In my opinion, St. Louis should be top three in that Central, but I think there's
They
going to
have a
be a
pretty
bit.
strong
They do
deep
have a
core. So
yeah,
I would agree. I would agree. Absolutely, I would agree.
yeah, uh,
Vegas just has more famous players.
yeah. Uh, let's see. It's gonna be them, and it's gonna be them. And let me tell you why I picked Columbus. Okay. Uh, Columbus has been a meme team, I guess you can say. But let me
Have they?
remind you, Columbus was the one that swept the best friggin' NHL team in regular season history,
Modern history,
in modern history, and this is a league that's over 100 years old.
absolutely.
Ever since then they were memed to hell, dude. Uh, not anymore. Not after the moves I've seen. Um, I think Columbus is gonna win a series. Even they're gonna win a
Mhm.
series.
They definitely have the roster to do so. Especially if we're going by this little prediction table you made.
Yeah, they would play the Rangers, which I
They would play
mean,
the Rangers for
or
sure.
well,
Unless the Leafs have another godly season and they win the East.
oh god, I don't want the Leafs versus Columbus though, man.
I do think it's New
Math,
York
it's
Columbus
gonna be the
uh,
freaking Matthews and Line matchup again with
because it's
the
gonna be Toronto
yeah.
Washington that I'm gonna be watching.
Yeah, I think so. Now,
Uh,
I'm going to put Ottawa here as well. Now,
as a potential, right?
this is a potential. I think they
Yeah.
missed the playoffs, but barely. I think Ottawa is top six.
What site is this actually? I
No,
want to share something with my YouTube.
chef's kiss. Detroit right behind Ottawa, but just not enough. Boston, yeah, they're old. The Islanders can be either or, dude. They can be good or they can be bad. There's no in between. And what the Islanders did, uh, before missing the playoffs last season,
Hmm.
I thought they were honestly gonna make the finals, but I don't know what happened. Like they stopped playing, and then they got rid of their coach. Like
Okay. Like,
I don't
actually,
know,
you know what? I agree with that
right?
because they got rid of their coach. That's the big thing.
I think the Islanders are a big question mark. It's just like who the hell knows what they're up to. And the Devils, they're gonna have a good season, but still not their time yet. They're working towards the long game. This Devils team.
So really quickly, division winners. We started with the Pacific first, right?
Yeah.
I actually think it's also going to be Calgary. But for the Central, Colorado, Metro, this one, Rangers. I am a bit of a bias on that one. But the Atlantic, this is where it gets a little spicy. Now, I told you before the podcast started that I have some hot takes primed and ready. You can still see it, right?
Yeah. The your stream, no, I can't see it actually. But
Okay, hold
uh,
on.
but just whatever, you can share it.
Yeah, so I actually have, I actually have fucking Ottawa winning all the Atlantic, and I know you're gonna be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Mm.
They made a drastic improvement this year, and I've watched a lot of Ottawa hockey actually because of Josh Norris. And for those of you who don't know who Josh Norris is, he was a Sharks prospect that I was very excited for, and then he was used as collateral for the Eric Carlson trade. But we'll talk about that another time. I am hyped for this Ottawa team because now this young, inexperienced squad of Josh Norris, Brady Kachuk, and this I guess you can call him a veteran a little bit now, Thomas Chabot.
Yeah.
This is a good team, and with their additions this year, I think it's a little bit of an outlandish take, but I do believe that Ottawa can surprise everyone and win the division. And that's not saying much
Um,
considering the playoffs is where it's at. But that being said, I think the additions they made this year can push them into not contender status, but playoff team status.
Yeah,
Does that make
I think they could be like their potential could be like what the Oilers were last season. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, it's really on their goaltending, dude. Like, w-
Cam Talbot is pretty good pickup, I
yeah,
would say.
I would say it is, but you know, is it enough? Is Cam Talbot the piece that Ottawa was missing? I mean, of course, they made a bunch of changes, but
Yeah.
in the playoffs, goaltending is so crucial, as you
Well, they
know.
also
Well, I
got
mean, goaltending and lucky bounces. Well,
yeah,
good
they
bounce,
also
like
got Brian Elliott this season. So
yeah,
he's not the Brian Elliott of 2012, but I think he'd be a solid backup for Cam.
yeah,
Now, like I said, this is more on the uh, hot take category. So, but I will stand by it. I think Ottawa makes a big splash. That being said, second seed in the Pacific. I believe it was between Edmonton and LA. I actually have LA taking second. I
okay,
think LA, they made a lot of noise last year. They took McDavid and Draisaitl to 7 games. I mean, that's no joke. Calgary couldn't even do that, and Calgary had a better season. I think LA takes the next step this year. I think they actually end up playing Edmonton in the second round or in the first round, and I think they actually win this time against Edmonton. So 2 and 3 in the Pacific is LA Edmonton. Um, for the Central, I actually have Minnesota
yeah,
second. Minnesota second and Dallas third because this Jason Robertson guy, I am on the hype train. Like this guy, for as young as he is playing on a level that most people his age aren't playing in the league. So I'm excited. If Dallas Stars fans, if you're watching this, you can get excited about this guy because from what I've seen so far, he's legit.
yeah. He is
So I think
legit, and I'm hoping that his brother Nick makes the Maple Leafs roster too. If Kerfoot is traded, I'm
yeah. Well,
guessing
I was gonna say, isn't he on the organization? I've seen him play for the Leafs before.
yeah, he his first game was game 4 against Columbus in the bubble, I
Yeah, that's
think.
where I remember.
No, maybe
I'm
I'm
pretty sure
wrong. I don't have I think I'm wrong on that, but I know
either the bubble
I know his career in the NHL started with that series, but I think yeah, no, I think Jason Robertson, what a revelation for that Dallas team that
yeah,
literally you have Sagan and Ben and they just don't score anymore. Like
and
yeah,
he came after their cup run,
yeah.
their cup final run. So
Yeah, imagine having, you know, that kind of a player for that cup run that could have flipped the script there, you know?
it just kind of sucks that Yoel Kiviranta didn't work out because
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be a big piece when that playoff concluded. Moving on to the Metro, my second and third seed are actually Carolina, second seed,
Mhm.
not that far behind the Rangers. We agreed on that. But my third seed is actually Columbus. I am riding high on that Goodrow signing because I am like I'm picturing the Goodrow Line connection as we speak, and it just looks too good for me. Do I think they win the division? Absolutely not. They lack a lot of other stuff. However, they have now been elevated from mediocre meme team that swept the best team in modern history to now a playoff team. I don't think they're a cup contender by any means, but they are definitely more than a wild card team in my eyes.
Yeah, and I mean their goaltending. I think their goaltending tandem is decent enough to get them on a run. Merzlikins and Corpusalo. I know they're not spectacular or like X Factor, but you know what? I'm pretty sure wasn't it uh Columbus wasn't Columbus the team that went to five overtimes?
Yes,
Yes.
against Tampa Bay the very next year.
Yeah, see, so I think they can go on a run with their past experience and
Yeah,
now having Goudreau in that lineup and Line actually having a star player to play with for what I want to say is the first time in his career. Sorry, Jets fans, that you want to hear that, but it's true. We never had it, Goudreau
right.
in Winnipeg, so
Two-thirds. That being said, you got to remember in 2019 when they swept that Tampa Bay team, Columbus had a much more experienced team with the likes of Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky in that lineup.
oh yeah,
Now, in the last 2 years, they didn't really have that because Panarin fucked off to the Rangers, Bobrovsky's with the Panthers. Now they have that playoff experience again with Johnny Gaudreau, who, by the way, can now say that he's been to the second round twice, even though he's lost in 5 games in both of his experiences. He he's there, he has experience. He knows how to win a playoff round. And a lot of you might say, well, that's not saying much. It's saying a lot if you're coming into a team with virtually no playoff experience. I mean, which players on the Columbus team has playoff experience right now? Patrick Laine and Gus Nyquist. That's
yeah.
really it.
Patrick
I
Laine went
mean,
to the third round, dude.
so did Gus Nyquist with the Sharks the very next year, actually, funnily enough.
Mm.
So I think Columbus, while they're not going to be the spectacular team, they're not going to win the division. I think they can make some noise this year. I would even argue that they can upset Carolina in the first round.
You could,
But that being said, I don't think they get past it. Moving on to the Atlantic, Toronto is a lock second seed.
yeah.
I actually think the realistic view is they're the first seed, but I want to believe in Ottawa here.
I
Toronto definitely top two. Third seed is a bit difficult because I wanna give Florida props, but I can't help but feel like they've downgraded a little bit with the loss of Huberdeau. Kachuk is great.
oh
He's a
yeah.
great player. He has a lot of grit. But Huberdeau, he was one of the cornerstones of this Panthers team, and he's gone. They're gonna feel that loss the same way the Sharks felt the loss of Joe Pavelski. I feel like it's gonna be to that same extent. Now, are they gonna fall off as hard as the Sharks did? I don't think so. However, I think we're gonna see a really sharp decline in the Panthers. That being said, the third Atlantic team in this division is Tampa Bay. Cup fatigue? Absolutely. I think if they face the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round next season, Toronto will wipe the floor with them. And that's not saying because they were so close last year. I think the fatigue is finally gonna get to Tampa. That's 3 years of 4 rounds of playoffs and an 82 game season. I think this is the year that we see them come back down to earth completely after all those cup runs. I think they lose to Toronto in the first round. And if they don't, they're losing to Ottawa in the second round. I'm sorry, Tampa fans. Your time is up.
Dog,
This is it.
I'm telling you, Toronto loses another first round in 7. Uh, someone make a meme out of me.
All right.
Seriously, just
I'll do that. I'll do that for you.
yeah, got it.
I give
Yeah.
wild card. Wild card one for the West. I actually think it's Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Well, you were saying that, and I think there's a fair argument for Vegas to be a part of the wild card playoff situation. Yeah, in my honest opinion, it's Pacific is really rough
Yeah,
and it could be a similar situation for the Central like what the Metro in my opinion is going to do and it's going to be 5 teams. Central could have
yeah.
5 teams too. It's really hard to say, but yeah, no. So what's your thoughts on Vegas being in that wild card spot?
I think that roster is just too. I mean, if they're fully healthy, by the way, if they're fully healthy and they don't get any long term series. I think Vegas, if they peak, they can actually win the division. But realistically, I think they end up in the wild card spot because that goaltending is atrocious. As much as I praised Aiden Hill and Brossois earlier, compared to the other goalies in the Pacific, I mean, it's not even close. The one thing Vegas has going for them is they have a potent offense. Shea Theodore is a beast. He's still in there, head manning the power play. If Vegas can score their goals and Aiden Hill and Brossois can just hold their own in net, this team is gonna go far. And this is coming from a bitter rival.
Yeah.
However, that being said, I don't think they're gonna peak that much, and they are gonna run into injury. So I'm putting them in the wild card one spot until I see otherwise. But for the Central wild card, listen, I want to have faith in the Jets, but I just don't see them being the you know beating out Nashville for that second wild card spot.
Yeah, it's
Nashville, I don't like this team very much, but they built a good team. Like they lost a lot of star power, but Roman Yossi, man, he had a career season last season.
yeah. Yeah, arguably better season than regular season at least than Kel McCarr, but
Yeah,
regular
but
season is totally different from the playoffs, dude. And my
right,
thought on Nashville being in that spot, it's fair. That Central is gonna be a dogfight. I'm telling
yeah,
you, between third to sixth in that Central division, it's a dogfight for three of those playoff spots. So
yeah. I think it's actually a toss up between St. Louis, Winnipeg, and Nashville, but I think Nashville, out of those three, has the most realistic chance of being the wild card too.
yeah,
It could be Winnipeg, it could be the Blues. They have the power to do it, but I just think Nashville, with the changes they made and the Yossi, I don't see him. I don't see any reason for him to slow down. So with that in mind, Nashville, second wild card team in the West, probably gonna have to play Colorado again, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So the wild card one for the East. This is a little tricky because Washington, you know, they're always gonna be there. I mean, it's Ovechkin. As long as Ovechkin's playing, they're always gonna be in the playoffs to some degree, unless they have a complete meltdown this season.
yeah.
However, I don't think that they're gonna have a better regular season than Pittsburgh. I don't feel confident betting against Sidney Crosby.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's same with me, dude. You just don't bet against Sid, and Washington in the playoffs these past few years, so disappointing.
I
Since
think
since
they're
their cup run, they just ran out of gas. And
they're
I think
gonna,
they play for Ovi now. Ovi's
yeah.
trying to beat that goal record, and I think that's why that team is still relevant,
I
even going
honestly
to the
think
playoffs.
that Washington has had worse playoff years than Toronto in the last 4 years because you expect a lot more from a team that just recently won a cup.
Yeah,
They fell apart so fast. Like in their first title defense, they lost in 7 games to the Carolina Hurricanes. Okay, whatever. Very next year, I think they played. It was either the Islanders or the Bruins. It might have been the Islanders. But they lost in 5 that game or that series. And then the very next year, did the same shit to Boston. So they make all this noise, and they almost like they reverted back to pre 2018 Washington, except instead of losing in the first round, they just lost in this. Instead of losing the second round, they just lose in the first now. And yeah, 2020 it was the Islanders. 2021 it was the Boston Bruins. And who was it this year? The Florida Panthers.
yeah,
Who, by the way, the Panthers haven't won a series since '96. So with that in mind, wildcard one will go to the Penguins for me. The Washington Capitals, good team, entertaining, just not deep enough to do anything in the playoffs, in my opinion.
yeah,
Now, Florida, I've put these guys off the entire list, and it's for one reason. I genuinely think they lost Matthew Tkachuk trade. They didn't do much of anything else after they got Matthew Tkachuk, which I think is part of the problem. So with that in mind, I still think they're going to be a playoff team. I just don't think that they're going to do much when they get there. So they're going to be wild card two. They're probably going to have to play New York. I think they lose in six, but this is very early.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to put the other teams who can sneak into the playoffs in the D tier, and then I'll leave all the other teams out because they're just too bad. So Winnipeg, Vancouver, St. Louis, and Detroit, Washington. You know what? I'll put Seattle up there too. These six teams can be that last wild card spot in any of their conferences. But I want to expand on Seattle a little bit because we didn't really talk about them this podcast. Um, really quickly before we end off, I think Seattle actually made some drastic improvements this year in the offseason. Nothing too noteworthy. They didn't get any big stars or anything. But I mean, they got Andrei Burakovsky, who is fresh off a cup run. Oliver Bjorkstrand, who a lot of people might not agree with me, but I think he's a very solid player. I've watched him a lot when he was in the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, he's a solid guy.
I think he's going to make much more of an impact than most people think. Jordan Eberle is going to have I'm going to call it now, he's going to have a good year. I'm not going to call it a breakout year because he's had good years before, but he's going to have a good production this year. But I think Seattle can be a bit of a dark horse for that second wildcard spot. I don't think they're going to go for it because, like you said earlier, they are building a really good team so far in there. And I also don't have faith in Philip Grubauer and Martin. You, you couldn't have asked for a more statistically bad duo. Like, Grubauer had a down year last year. Martin Jones has had a down year since like 2018 and hasn't really recovered since, no matter which team he played for. So I think that's the reason why I don't put them as a shoe in for the wild card. But I definitely think if they peak, they can get to at least wild card two, maybe even wild card one. But that being said, I don't see them beating out teams like Winnipeg or Vancouver or St. Louis for that second wild card spot in the West. But I don't think it's impossible. Like Chicago, Arizona, Anaheim, San Jose, they're not making the playoffs. And I'm a San Jose Sharks fan. It's just not happening. And if it does
Yeah.
happen, why? I would actually be pissed if we make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think for the Sharks this year, it's you need to get a player like Connor Bedard on your team, like to
Yeah,
really
it takes them to sure. Listen, we got a steal when we got William MacKinnon. Okay?
yeah, I think he's
So
gonna play with the team this season. Hey,
yeah, I'm actually excited to watch Sharks hockey because Eklund is gonna play. I
yeah,
don't know if we're gonna win any games, but hey, I'm excited to watch Sharks hockey for the first time since like 2016. So
yeah, it should
and we
be.
lost Burns. So this team isn't doing anything. This team is
I
not
can't
doing anything.
believe Burns left. Honestly, like I would have never thought that Burns would have left that team.
Listen, I was
So
shocked, but I also understand because nobody
yeah,
is taking Eric Carlson's contract. Nobody.
yeah, no,
And
it's
I love Eric Carlson, man. He's amazing. He's a great person. He's just not the same guy who he was in Ottawa. And
yeah,
we got shades of it last year, buddy. We got shades of it last year, but his body is just not keeping up. I fully believe that if he played the whole year last year, the Sharks could have been a wild card team because he was playing really well. It almost looked like a return to form for a bit, and then he collapsed again, and he missed like 20 games. So I genuinely understand why Brent Burns was the one to go. I hated to see him go. I wanted him to retire as a Shark, but I hope he wins a cup in Carolina. He
yeah.
deserves it.
It'll be
He's a stud.
interesting. Honestly, I do cheer for Carolina a little bit. Just looking at their roster and some of the players that used to be on the Leafs and some players that I actually do really like
Is
like
Gardiner still in Carolina?
sorry?
Is Jake Gardiner still in Carolina?
He is. I think Jake though is still dealing with his back injuries. I'm not gonna be surprised if he's not really a mainstay guy on that defense,
Yeah,
or if he just gets kinda, like, relegated. It's a tough league, dude, and when you're going through injuries like that affect your career, it's, hard to climb back up to where you once were as a player. Um,
I agree, especially for a guy like Gardner. After he's had some brutal playoffs the past few years too. So
yeah.
sucks
Yeah,
to be that guy, but Carolina looks good. Uh, I guess to end off, I think cup contenders: Carolina definitely, Colorado, Toronto. Yes, in the Pacific, any of the Alberta teams can be considered as cup contenders.
yeah,
Edmonton, I feel like I actually want to change my pick. I feel like Edmonton might win the.
yeah. It's close between Calgary and, Edmonton, but
Yeah.
I think, with Edmonton, they got a goaltender in Jack Campbell, and I'll tell you,
Mhm.
Oilers fans, you gotta what a great energy you got now in net and in the locker room. He's honestly he was so like he was such a joyful personality that it was kind of refreshing. Like it really was. Not saying that Freddie wasn't refreshing when he joined the team, but it totally different. So Oilers fans are gonna be excited for some soup in the net, you know. But yeah, my contender. Well, first of all, I'm going to announce who I believe is going to win the cup. Um,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it is going to go back east, and I
Already.
think for the first time since 1994, the New York
Oh,
Rangers
really?
are gonna win the Stanley Cup, dude. I think they're gonna go on a run. They're gonna pick up someone at the deadline, and they're gonna go for it, dude. I think from what I've seen, and they made it to the conference finals. They're ready to take that next step. I think my dark horse contender picks for the cup. Uh, I would say even though Flames win, I think the Oilers for sure. You know,
Mm,
can't bet against McDavid.
mm.
Um, I truly want to believe it's gonna be Toronto's time sooner or later, but I don't know about this year. But I'm gonna put him as dark horse pick too. I want to honestly see how this goaltending goes, and
Who's your
don't bet against the defending Stanley Cup champions Colorado Avalanche.
thing?
Oh, and Tampa Bay, of course. You know,
I like your dark
if
horse.
I don't say that, then you know I'm just gonna piss off the whole NHL fan base. But yeah, Tampa
I
Bay,
like
whatever.
I like
Go
your
to
dark horse.
hell. Go to
I
hell.
might
Just kidding, but you know.
I might agree with that one, the dark horse. But my cup contender this year, um, I think it stays in the West actually.
Yeah.
And Jets fans, don't crucify me for this, but I think this is the year that Minnesota actually wins
You think Mini, hey?
because I think after the disappointment against St. Louis last year, I think people's eyes are going to be off the team now, but they're not going to be bad. So they're going to be in the playoffs. I have them as my second team in the Central. I think that now that they've, the hype around them has kind of died down a little bit. The pressure is going to come a little off. Players are going to be a little bit more relaxed in a way. They can focus more instead of like, oh my god, I have to live. We're a contender. Like we have Kaprizov. We have to live up to the hype that we're going to be the best team in Central. I think with that pressure being gone, they can take that next step. And if even if they don't win the cup, I feel like this is the year they win at least a round. That being said, my dark horse, still a Western team actually. I have two dark horses, and they're Edmonton and Dallas. But more so Edmonton than Dallas. Dallas is more of like a outlandish wild pick just to throw people off type of. Edmonton, on the other hand, I mean, they were close last year.
Yeah.
Had they not run into Colorado, I firmly believe that they could have taken any other team 6 or 7 games and they would have prevailed.
Did
And
that
that's
Edmonton team remind you though of how the Jets were in 2018?
yes, actually, yes. And I'm glad you pointed that out because the way they were playing and how fast they were and just their ability to never be counted out. I mean, game 1 against the Flames in that Battle of Alberta. If you stopped watching after the first period and thought that, oh, Calgary won this game easily, you would have been so wrong. Calgary ended up winning, yes. But if you saw the final score of that game, you would have been like, the fuck happened in those last 40 minutes? So I think Edmonton this year takes that extra step. Jack Campbell is their missing piece. And I will die on that hill, actually. Because I watched Campbell play all 7 games against the Lightning. And let me tell you, he was not the problem in that series. He gave that Maple Leaf squad a fighting chance when their offense turned to shit in the last few minutes of Game 7. And you can attest to this because I know you
I
watched that.
can. Yeah. He
So I think
was.
dark horse wise, Edmonton for sure. The reason why I say Dallas as well, Jake Ottinger, man, holy shit! If he keeps that performance up, that Dallas team, they're a few stars away from being a cup contender. If that's how he's gonna play,
Yeah.
I mean, they may have found another gem. I mean, what is it with Dallas and finding all these gems recently? Jason Robertson, Yoel Kiviranta in the 2020 playoff run, and now Jake Ottinger. I mean,
But
if
let's
they
see,
fall
right? Is Ottinger the long-term solution, or was he kind of just like a one and done kind of
one and
goalie?
done,
But we'll see.
Martin Jones, you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah.
I
But
hope not,
yeah, I hope
but
not either. That was a spectacular game
I mean, he
7
was
that he played.
unreal in that Calgary series.
Yeah.
But that being said, like you said, you can't count out the defending cup champions, Colorado Avalanche, man. I mean, they kept most of their core up outside of losing, Kemper and Kadri. But
And Burakovsky. I think the hit is big enough on Colorado and the hangover effect. I think I don't count them out, but
I just don't see them winning
it's
here.
unlikely that they're gonna do a back to back.
I think they lose in the second round this year. And Avs fans, um, go ahead and roast me if I'm wrong, but I think they lose in the second round this year to whoever, either Minnesota or who did I have in the third seed? Dallas. I think cup hangover will be a factor. Same with Tampa Bay. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I think fatigue will be a factor. I think they're. I'm gonna say it. You guys can crucify me. I don't care. Tampa's done. They're gonna make the playoffs. Sure, they're not making it past the first round. Even if they do, they're not making it past the second. I'm sorry, but 3 playoff runs to the cup final, especially with the 2020 run being a little bit more games because of like the play-in and the round robin and whatever, all that shit. Fatigue is a factor. Say what you want about, oh, mostly everyone's getting the same amount of rest in the off season. It's gonna be a factor, man. I
Yeah.
mean, 4 straight years or 3 straight years of deep cup runs and only losing one of them. I mean, I think losing the last year's final was the nail in the coffin for the Tampa team. They're still gonna be competitive. They're still gonna be a favorite on paper. Don't get me wrong, but I think realistically, they're done this year. First round or second round.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're 21 days away, my friend, till the season
I can't
opener
believe
with the
it.
New York Rangers hosting the one of the Stanley Cup finalists, Tampa Bay Lightning, October
Oh,
11th. And
is
with
that
that,
the season opener?
huh?
Is that the season opener?
Yeah, it's a doubleheader, I believe.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting the season off with a banger.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good game. But I think we went definitely over time on this podcast. I know that we had talked about 30 minutes and we're almost 2 hours in. So
Yeah, yeah,
it goes to show you that once we start talking about like
it just keeps
hockey,
going.
it just keeps going, and then it's
And you know what? More fuel for the next one.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, thank you all for whoever watched. I know that was a few of you guys who
Yeah,
stuck with us through the whole
for anyone
stream.
who stuck throughout the whole podcast and had to listen to all my shit takes, thank you very much. We
Yeah.
appreciate you. We hope you like this. I guess we can call this a trial run.
Yeah,
Uh,
I thought it was good. I mean, I think for the most part, this podcast stayed on the rails. It didn't derail at all. It was a
yeah,
good conversation. We
and
got
it was all
the
about us, which is what we came here.
yeah.
So you know what? I've been excited. I've been actually wanting to do something like this for a while. Both Drum and I, we've always been the hockey bros.
Oh yeah, long time.
Fans of different teams, mind you, but we've been wanting to have this platform to just talk about hockey, all things hockey. The NHL and personal experiences with the game itself, and just a way to celebrate the game. Casuals, hardcores, you're all welcome here. Shit takes and hot takes and predictions. We've got it all, man, and we've got shit takes for sure. I mean, I'm on this podcast, so
Yeah.
so yeah. I mean, thank you for everyone who was stuck around. We hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, we'll definitely be doing this again, don't you think? I think it'll be
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have next week sometime. I'm
yeah,
not sure if it like what is today Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I don't think it'll be Tuesdays, but because of all the big news today, I did want to kind of get the
it
ball
felt
rolling. It felt
it felt
appropriate. Yeah. So yes, thank you guys.
yep.
I'm gonna try and get some sleep now. And you gotta go
Yeah.
to the gym now, hey? Gonna
Yeah, I'm 15 minutes late now, but shout out to my boy Keith Yandel. Enjoy your retirement.
yeah,
I feel like you're flying under the radar with two other big names, but yeah, shout outs to him, man. And
yeah.
yeah, shout outs to everyone else who stuck around.
All right, Lyra.
All right,
It was a
Drum,
good one. Take it easy.
good one. Get some rest, my friend, and we'll do this again next week.
Yes. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.
Yeah.